Hello, everyone out there. This is Dennis, and welcome to another episode of the Grounded Reason podcast. This episode today actually was recorded a little over a month ago. So any time references you hear, for instance, last week is probably more like last month. We recorded this one. It's a bit of a deviation of from what we've been doing. It's on artificial intelligence and how that's shaping our current world, what to expect. And Joel and I had a little bit of fun with this one. So, definitely if you like it, or even if you hate it, give us a call at 650-TALK-GRP and let us know. Email us, of course, at podcast@groundedreason.com. And give us your feedback. See if you want more like this, none like this. I mean, we had a lot of fun doing it, so hopefully you'll have a lot of fun listening to it. So without any more of me babbling on ad nauseum before the episode, let's get this one rolling. Okay, Joel. So, we've spent a lot of time on different cord cutting topics, antennas, Sling TV, state of internet.
Yeah.
We did a little bit of IoT, and, that was a lot of fun. So today we're going to, we decided that it was time that we broach the topic of artificial intelligence. I know Joel's a huge fan of this topic. He's been wanting to do this one.
I've been trying to get in with our overlords or future overlords.
Oh yeah, that's the robot overlords.
Yeah.
Well, I was listening. I was
early.
I was listening to Max Brooks was on the Nerdist a couple weeks back.
Yeah.
And he actually had a great quote about that. Somebody said about the robot war. He's like, yes, we're gonna have a robot war, but we're not gonna be fighting the robots. We're gonna be fighting the people over the robots.
Right.
So
yeah. So with the research I was doing for this one, it really was one of those things where I had to decide where to stop. Right? Like, because AI is one of those topics that just goes on and on and on. So kind of really I'm just going to focus on AI, kind of how it's thought about commonly, what are some of the technical definitions around the types, and then what's currently going on in the market with it.
Right.
And so to start, the idea of machine-based intelligence has been around for a long time, centuries.
Yeah, very long.
But the term artificial intelligence actually only dates back to 1956. There was this big conference in
Dartmouth?
I think, that's...
Yeah. Yeah.
I think so.
Well, I'll edit it out of it.
So, yeah. So, at Dartmouth. And one of the gentlemen that was there was John McCarthy, I think is how you say his name. And he ended up eventually being one of the co-founders of the MIT AI lab. And out of that conference, which was really, it was actually, the discussion topic was, can machines learn? Out of that is the framework that we use to discuss artificial intelligence.
Right.
And about 6 years before that, there's the famous Turing test, which you know a lot of.
All right, so basically, Alan Turing in 1950 came up with a test where a human's going to have a conversation with a screen.
Yep.
And after 5 minutes, if the person doesn't know that it's talking to a computer, that computer passed that run. And if it can happen 70% of the time
through a bunch of different runs,
then it is passed the Turing test.
And I believe, as of right now, no machine has passed the Turing
Not to my knowledge. I'll definitely check on that after the show, and if it comes up, I'll put it in the show notes. But not to my knowledge, I don't think anything's passed it.
And so, like, again, that's really in the 50s is where the study of artificial intelligence really picked up. And it makes a lot of sense, right? Like, that's really when computer science was getting its foothold.
Yes,
right?
That's when they found the moth in the supercomputer.
Oh, what's her name? The coined the phrase bug.
Oh, what's her name?
She was in the Navy. I think she was an admiral in the Navy.
Right. Yeah. So
I'm so mad at myself. I can't remember that.
But was it the ENIAC? Was that ENIAC that they were working on at the time?
I don't know.
But anyway, she coined the term bug. They found a moth in a computer screwing up, and that's why we have computer bugs.
Yeah.
Piece trivia. All right.
So, anyways, like the trick with artificial intelligence is there's actually quite a few different types. So it's actually a bit of a spectrum, right? So there's what's commonly referred to as weak artificial intelligence, which is its more formal name is narrow intelligence. And think of like Deep Blue when it played
Kasparov.
Kasparov in chess in '96 and ended up beating him. I think it was like 4-2 or something.
Yeah, he didn't take that too. He wasn't.
No, he did not take that well.
No.
And neither. I guess if I was a grandmaster or anything, I would not take being beaten by a machine well either.
No.
So, like, but that's
especially Grandmaster Flash in a wrap off.
Oh yeah,
no,
that's coming.
Oh really?
That's coming. Sooner or later, someone's gonna write code that wins a rap battle. It's gonna happen. Yeah. So, anyways, like the idea with narrow intelligence, or where the distinction there is with weak AI, is that it is all around a specific task, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically like, what was it you were talking about in one of the previous episodes where the guy had programmed.
The Vox article.
Yeah.
Yeah, where he basically used a neural network to train his computer to optically watch TV, and then, showed him Blade Runner, and then the computer was able to, without copying the data, actually spit out its interpretation of Blade Runner, and it was so real, like it was so real to the movie that, a Vimeo got issued a takedown notice for something that wasn't even a duplication of the original. It was its own thing. The computer made it from its memory.
Just insane. So like that gives you an idea of how powerful those things are, and they're considered weak AI, right? Because they're specific. Strong AI, or general intelligence, is something that's more like human intelligence, in that it doesn't have to be trained on a specific task over and over and over again. Like with weak, it's like you have it focus on a unique set of tasks.
It's a narrow scope. It's like
and it just repeats it. The general, it kind of trains itself, and that's where you would see the application of the Turing test.
Right. Yeah, that's where it starts to come into play.
Yeah, and then there's the scary one, the one that is purely hypothetical right now.
Not all scary. Commander Data's okay.
Sometimes Data goes bad.
He does go a bit haywire. Yeah, he has had a couple episodes. But for the, he's,
in general,
he likes kitties. I mean,
yeah, that's true.
He's an okay guy.
So it's artificial superintelligence, which is basically the idea of something that would be significantly more intelligent than human beings, and it actually, again, that in and of itself runs on a spectrum, which is it can be more intelligent than an individual, all the way to more intelligent than the collective of humanity.
Right, and that's where it gets scary, because once you have something that is a machine that can learn, then its learning capability is only limited by the resources that it can get a hold of.
Yeah, and so this right now, I mean, largely is relegated to like
Sci-fi.
sci-fi and like the realm of like futurists and philosophers and so on. So I think the guy's name is Vernon Vinge. I'm not pronouncing that right, but it's Vinge. Wrote a pretty famous article where he like spelled out exactly what he thinks the moment of what everyone refers to as now as singularity,
right?
Where it's conceptually it's where rules no longer apply when the common rules of our understanding of machines no longer apply, right? Like that's the idea. And then Ray Kurzweil wrote a book called The Singularity is Near, which just kind of expanded on that.
Right.
And this idea of like the law of accelerating returns. And it's much like Dennis was saying, where if a machine could teach itself, and machines are so fast at executing tasks and don't need to sleep or eat and so on, like they can just learn at a rate that becomes astronomical.
Yeah, and I mean, well, we're in a situation now when you go and you buy server resources, you're buying them from, everyone's favorite, the cloud,
right.
Big buzzword right now, everything.
Yeah.
But let me tell you something, managers out there, the cloud, that's just somebody else's computer.
Yeah.
Don't be fooled.
I actually remember this is like early 2000s when people would do like architectural diagrams,
right?
And they would draw like a workflow, and they'd say, okay, well, we got inputs here and we got an output over here, and we don't know exactly what we're going to do, so we're just going to draw a cloud.
Right.
That's what I think of whenever one talks about cloud architecture. Not that the idea of software as a service or infrastructure as a service isn't wonderful. It is.
Right. No, it is.
I just find the term obnoxious because it's overused.
It's way overused. And everyone got very excited about it. And then they're finally starting to realize, oh, it's just someone else's computer.
Yeah.
It's very well managed and on demand. And, but that's kind of what I'm getting at here is if we do have some kind of, super intelligent AI, it's going to be in a cloud environment.
Yeah.
Which means it'll have access to, pretty much. I mean, not if it's finite, but
everything's an exaggeration, but a hell of a lot.
It's going to be a lot of resources. So,
like, especially, I mean, again, coupling technologies, right? Like, would happen almost immediately.
Yeah, like if they put that thing in the Amazon AWS cloud,
it's no bueno.
No.
So, anyways, like this does not exist right now.
No,
we're just to be clear.
I have my sci-fi hat on right now.
We're totally geeking out. But like where we fall on that spectrum right now in terms of technological development is somewhere far along on the weak AI development scale. So like we were talking earlier about Watson.
Yeah, Watson is probably, I can't say, like, I don't know if it's the best, but it is up there.
It's pretty premier. It's the premier. Very, very well known.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I think I was telling you, I was listening to a discussion about how they have constructed that neural network and so on. It's amazing.
Oh, yeah. Well, the original Watson, when it was on Jeopardy, like 2011.
Yeah.
Well, they had the box up there, sitting there. But really, Watson was about as, big as a bedroom. Yeah. Like, it was basically a bedroom full of computing power.
Yeah.
That was back then. And that was just their one Watson. Yeah. Now, Watson is, like I said, cloud deployed. Yeah. And you can have hundreds of instances of that Watson. Well, actually, a more advanced version of that Watson running.
And if you want to get a sense of just kind of like how complex the task was of, when was that, 2008 or something, the Jeopardy?
That was 11. Yeah, 2011.
2011. Okay. You can go to TED Talks and listen to, what's his name? Jennings?
Is it Jennings?
The former champion that was beaten by Watson for Jeopardy. Like, he, first of all credit to him. The guy was amazing, or is amazing. And then secondly, like for him to get up on the TED stage and talk about that, which was
Ken Jennings,
which was a pretty painful defeat from the way he talked about it.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, I had nothing but respect that the guy could do it, right? Like, I don't know that I would have had the humility to, like, get up and talk about it, but it really is interesting because, like, Watson was able to understand puns and, like, you know, like different types of context. I mean, it's really impressive. And that was 5 years ago. So, again, it is still weak AI in that these are generally specific tasks. Wow, that's a horrible phrase. That generally specific.
I did that a few weeks ago, but I can't remember what it was. It was
Just makes me sad.
It was
when I say things like that.
Almost always, or something.
Yeah, something terrible.
It was terrible.
So, anyways, it is very impressive, and Watson's actually being focused now. IBM is focusing Watson more specifically in medical, like in the medical fields, right? Like in hospital assistance and research and so on.
I was reading an article. I'll have to pull it up the other day, or was it? Yeah, it was basically mammograms are kind of there's a lot of false positives.
Sure.
And basically I was reading where I think the gamut of, you know, anywhere between 5 and 95% can be a false positive. So they do a lot of biopsies that are completely unnecessary to rule out to rule out the false positives. They were using a neural network to kind of look at the mammogram, and the neural network could do it with 99% accuracy.
Well, yeah, and this is like so personal belief, but the market's kind of bearing this out, and I'm certainly not the first person to say it, so I'm not planting any flags. But I think this kind of like human assisted artificial intelligence is going to be where things shine for the next couple of decades.
Yeah, definitely. Right? Well, that's really where it is. It's not we're going to make something to replace people. We need to start, and it's basically the whole culture of human-centered design. Yeah. Where we're going to use technology to augment us, to help us, to make us better.
I mean, again, so like, you know, the thing where like people go, I mean, this is more urban legend probably than anything else, but where people go into the hospital and they'll mark like on, you know, they have to get their foot operated on, and they'll write on their foot in marker, not this foot.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
Like,
make sure we don't. You want to cut the left one off.
Cut the left one. The right one is fine, right? Like, but the machine doesn't make that mistake. It's got all of your medical records in there, and the right foot is the right foot is the right foot to a machine.
It's gonna know.
It does not ever make that mistake.
And if it does, run, because they're about to take over.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very serious at that point. They've become just as imperfect as us.
No, I'm saying that they're probably out to get us at that point. It's part of their master
they're just
plan.
Hobbling us.
We're going to cut the left feet off of everyone.
Everyone loses a left foot. So I was reading some stuff by like I think he's like one of the top guys at DARPA that was pointing out why this is such a clever move by the team that's working on Watson and IBM, is that medical field and there's a couple other major fields like this are really just eliminating, like when you do a diagnosis, you're really eliminating alternative diagnoses, right? You go in and you say, okay, this person, let's say the end result is a person has tuberculosis. So the first thing you do is, okay, they don't have any broken limbs. They don't have any, and the machine can do this instantly, right? Just as fast as we could.
Faster.
Considerably faster, right? Like, and, it goes through all those things to where there's really only a few options left of what it is.
I mean, and that's really that's what the whole algorithm of like, because it's just very, very, very quickly eliminating possibilities.
Right. And then it gives you a probabilistic, like it is likely one of these three things, and that's where the human comes in, right? The human, then the doctor who's been doing this for a long time, no longer has to consider all these oddball alternatives, right, or anything else, isn't distracted by anything else, is really focusing on those couple of alternatives. And they expect the productivity and, productivity to go dramatically up and medical error to go dramatically down.
Yeah, well, they were just for when in the article I was reading, they were getting into how long it takes, a doctor to review charts, and manual review of 50 charts takes between 50 and 70 hours roughly, where AI reviewed 500 charts in a couple hours.
Yeah.
So that alone saves the time to where these doctors can be
focusing on other things.
Imagine the money we could save in healthcare.
Yeah.
Because that's really where the bottleneck is. It's doctors there's only so many of them and they can only go so fast.
Yeah.
But if you had AI eliminating all of the, well, I don't want to call it busy work because it's very important, but it's tedious and it's time consuming.
Well, so when I was looking into this stuff, there was this phrase that came out of what I was looking into, and it was basically that, like, we all know that software has been radically changing the way business tasks or just life in general, but more specifically business tasks are performed for the last 30, 40 years, right? And a lot of it is basically taking what is it that is routine? What is something that can be written into code, right? And then take that, write that into code, have the human beings do everything else.
Right. Which kind of, Amazon has, and this applies in an odd way because they have something called the Mechanical Turk.
Oh, this is one of my favorite topics.
Okay. So Mechanical Turk, Amazon's Mechanical Turk, is basically just that. It's stuff that you really can't automate well. Like, for instance, somebody needs to, they want to take all of these various receipts. Well, you could probably do this with some expensive AI at this point.
You could.
But he has all these receipts, and they wanted to put it in, digital format. So you can go out there and he'll send you, a picture of all these receipts that he or she has taken pictures of, and you basically type away, and they'll pay you, 5 cents a receipt or whatever it is.
So it's microtasking.
Yes, and
like another example I've heard is, and this one I thought was really neat.
I played around with it for a little bit.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I have an account and I've messed around. I've never made any money doing it.
No, I think I made.
I got bored and stopped doing it. But
I kind of cheated, like not really cheated, but I figured out some stuff that actually could be automated or scripted.
But that's what they're hoping for,
right?
Like so
I started scripting a few things, and I was able. I got up to like $13 an hour. I think was my best, which I hear is like fantastic on Turk. But I was like, that it took a lot of work to get there.
Well, eventually what happens is you start running out of tasks.
That's the thing. I could only
way.
apply it to certain the scripts I wrote only worked on certain things. I'm getting way too nerdy. I'm sorry right now.
No. But so backing up, like Mechanical Turk, what it is basically microtasks. So you take any activity you have. Like one that I heard that I think is fascinating is like, let's say you're looking for shipwreckage out in the deep blue ocean.
Oh yeah, this is a good one.
Right? And what they do is they say, okay, yes, is it possible to write, with current technology, could you write something that could review, 40-yard square photos of the ocean, right? And you could, right? But it would cost a lot, and it would take a fair amount of time. Another alternative is you pay a human a quarter for every picture you do it, and you spread it out across 5,000 humans,
right? And
all of a sudden, you're looking at a heck of a lot of area.
Yeah, and it's your own like neural network.
Well, and then what you do is, let's say someone flags, I think I saw wreckage there, right? So when they flag it, then you run it back through someone else, and if they flag it, then you might have something.
Then you hand it over to the expert, and then they make the final decision.
Exactly.
Right. So and Amazon, you can hop on there right now. I think it's just I don't know. Google it, but I think it's just Turk.com or something
like that.
But
okay, so
I went and looked up because I got a
love
mechanical
this.
and I'm sitting there. I was like, what in the heck is a mechanical Turk? So I go and I look up mechanical Turk, and since Joel is like giddy over here when to talk about this, I'm gonna let him go on from there.
All right, so as a quick aside, like Dennis and I went.
It's
to,
kind of an aside, but it's really, it kind of applies.
Okay, so this is my favorite form of artificial intelligence because it's what I've heard phrased as artificial intelligence. Right? Which means human intelligence,
yes.
Right? And so the Mechanical Turk is a famous project that was made by this guy. I had his name, but I don't remember it anymore.
But it was in like 18 something or other.
I think it was 1790
wow.
something, but it ran until the 1830s or 40s. And basically he would tour with this device, and it was called the Mechanical Turk. Not a particularly PC name.
No.
Because the guy was dressed like a stereotypical like Ottoman Turk of the time.
Right, it was this, the guy, I think they had him, it was like a...
It was a mannequin.
Yeah, it was a mannequin.
Right, it was
like
a mannequin.
He
had like a Sikh turban on
or something.
Doesn't make a lot of sense.
Not at all.
But anyways, like, so it was a mannequin, and it played chess, right? And so...
I'm assuming a wooden
Yeah,
mannequin.
it was wooden.
Right.
And it had brass parts and so on, but it was mostly wooden. And there were replicas. There are existing replicas of this thing, which... Man, I just get such a kick out of. But anyways,
I'll put a link in the show notes to a picture of this thing.
And what he would do is this guy would tour, and this went on for decades. And people kind of knew it was a hoax. Oh yeah, so what it was is that there was an actual chess master back behind, right?
Well, but no, explain. Let's back it up.
So
you're too excited.
I am too excited. In brief, what it is that, or what it was, is that there was this device that was basically a mannequin that had like a table in front of it.
Right.
And then like a cavity underneath. And
but people would come up and they would play chess.
And they would play chess against the Turk.
And the Turk would whoop up on them. Like, no one could beat the Turk.
No, and it toured all over the place.
Yeah, and some of the people
my favorite one is, maybe you've heard of him, Napoleon Bonaparte, right? Like
the Napoleon.
The Napoleon.
Played,
and the guy the ice cream's named after.
Right, exactly. The guy, I wonder if it was like in Bill and Ted's, like when the Turk beat him.
Absolutely.
If he's like, mierte, 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 like beating on the floor, like he gets thrown out. Get out of here, buddy.
Do we have to get an E on this episode if you curse in French?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't know.
But que sera. Anyway, so like we go ahead and like what this is there's a chess master running the device, right? But nobody can see the chess master, so they all think, and it's an illusion, effectively, right? Like that the Turk is actually a robot that is playing them.
Right, that's what he's built at. This robot will beat you at chess.
Yeah, and again, this was toured for decades.
Yeah, 18th century.
And people knew after a while that it was a hoax, but they couldn't figure it out. And there were like famous people that tried to debunk it, and they would draw diagrams of how they thought it worked.
Right.
And, in review, decades later, because it was eventually donated to museums, none of them were right? Like so it was just a brilliant thing. And anyways, Amazon uses that name.
But it was a guy in a box.
Yeah, it was a guy in a box.
The granddad.
It was just fantastic, right?
Like the grandmaster. They put like a grandmaster chess player.
You just imagine this little man they shove in a box,
and he's like, controlling the Turk.
Just wiggle these gears around, and he could move the arm of the Turk,
and the Turk
would whoop up on people playing chess. And, so anyways, that's Amazon took that name because, like, again, if you were, not in the know, if you weren't someone taking on these tasks, you would think, oh, it's just being, whatever task I have is just being run through some software to execute whatever commands I'm asking it to do. But what really is happening is people are doing these tasks
there's
remotely.
A bunch of people in the box.
Yeah, there's literally someone watching, I don't know, Seinfeld, doing, like, reviewing receipts.
Right.
And, it's great. So getting back to artificial intelligence.
Well, this artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Fake artificial intelligence.
Yeah,
It's
whatever
humans.
you want to call
It's
it.
people.
I love it. But getting back to actual artificial intelligence. One of the other things that has been or was really interesting talking or like digging into this topic was AI in pop culture, right? Like, so it's not just the science, like the concept of artificial intelligence has interested people for, I think I said earlier, but hundreds and hundreds of years.
Yeah, I mean, and that kind of gets played into it. The fact that I was flabbergasted that they invented like fake AI.
Yeah, I mean, the word robot is quite, I don't remember exactly how old, but it's pre 20th century.
Right.
And I believe we'll look
No, I'm
that
pretty
up.
sure it is. I'm pretty sure you're right.
And I can say definitively, because I did the research, that the idea of AI appearing in film and such stories goes back at least to 1921. And
Really?
yeah. Let me see. It's this unusual film called. Or it's a play, I'm sorry, that's RUR, and it's a self-replicating robot, slaves that revolt against their human masters.
Hey.
Yeah. I mean, like, that's pretty much like a plot right out of the modern era.
Oh, yeah.
In 1921, right? So these are, you know, and then, like, there's all the ones that we all know really well. So Skynet in
of course.
Terminator,
That's like
Terminator
the big
2,
reference.
etc.
Anytime somebody,
Yeah.
like at work, anytime somebody brings up some sort of neural network. Or,
Yeah, it's Skynet.
Skynet.
The Matrix.
Yes.
You know, I was actually amazed because I just forgotten that's what they. It's one of those things that is so common in pop culture. It kind of is just like, oh yeah. When the world ends and we have overlords,
Right.
It's going to be aliens or it's going to be AI,
Yes.
right?
They're going to black out the sky.
It's one of
and
those
we'll
things,
die.
right? Like, so Halo, System Shock. In fact, it's really common in gaming culture for obvious reasons.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like,
Well, I mean, that's kind of how, the dystopian, we're in a lot of dystopian literature has come out about our age, and a lot of it is either spawned by, aliens, zombies, or AI.
So actually, since you brought up zombie, casually there, and just the idea of dystopia, I was taking this I might have mentioned it on a previous podcast, but it was a course of zombies and literature from iTunes University. Mm-hmm. It was like University of Alabama, and they were talking about, one of the things was how zombie and dystopian fiction rises in popularity during times of economic stress.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Which makes total sense, right? Like, people's anxiety levels are up. That's a healthy release, and so...
Well, I think, like, right now, we're coming in, when it comes to, like, AI and pop culture, we're coming into, as far as film and cinema goes, like, it's, like, the best it's ever been, with movies like Her.
Yeah. Her was very good.
Yeah, Ex Machina.
Yep.
With,
Yep.
I
forget.
what's his name? He's a great actor. He's in Star Wars, Poe Dameron, Isaac.
Something like that. There's also the obvious, like, one of my favorite authors, Isaac Asimov, right? Like, so that's the big one is iRobot.
Yep.
Right.
Oh, definitely.
But it makes it, for anyone who's familiar with Asimov, it makes it all the way into the Foundation trilogy, which is his big dog book or series of books. So yeah, I mean, so again, like, you see this in pop culture, and the more you see it in pop culture, the more people wonder, like, how real is this stuff? So again, just kind of digging into it for giggles, right? Like, how serious are people taking artificial intelligence and potential, benefits and risks? So the White House, just so you know.
Oh, It's been big lately. It's been a hot topic.
Recently spun up like working groups around this and so on, and had a big thing come up a couple months ago where they had multiple conferences, one on each coast, going into like the legal and governance implications of AI, like in the future, and how to use AI as it starts to become more developed for the public good.
Well, they're already worried about weaponized AI in other countries. And I think the U.S. is kind of like nervous because they haven't really they haven't prepared for it well enough. Because if you have a neural network and you throw it at, we were talking about hacking.
Yeah.
If you want to hack into a system, you can throw a neural network at it and just brute force
it. Right. Yeah.
Break it down. And they're kind of, at least in 2014, I read a paper where the Pentagon was quite worried.
Yeah, I think it's a legitimate concern.
And
again, in those cases, we'd be talking weak AI, but weak doesn't actually mean like not.
It can still it can
a
still
serious
hurt.
threat, right?
Right. It's like a weak bat to the face.
It just means that it's not a particularly intelligent artificial intelligence, but it can still do whatever dangerous task it's assigned or beneficial task, right? So the White House and the entire executive branch, as Dennis alluded to, is taking it pretty seriously. Also, industry is starting to really adjust. Now, obviously, there's always the people that are trying to invest in these types of things that are the software companies, but there's also like the Bank of England is estimating. Now, how did they estimate that? I really want to dig in and like look at the study, right? But they are estimating that 48% of human workers will eventually be replaced by robotics or software automation. Now, here's the tricky thing with that.
I bet you there's a lot of unknowns in that study.
How about this? Projecting the future is generally wild-eyed speculation.
I would say, yeah. Because as that T constant, is that T...
Yeah.
Goes out there, T being time.
Yeah, it's kind of a big deal.
It kind of falls apart. Your simulation usually kind of falls apart as T gets larger.
But let's just say, let's bear with that number for a second. And here's a handful of tasks that are just common examples. Obviously, all over the news is the idea of automated cars, right? Like cars that can drive themselves.
Yeah, we talked about this last week.
Exactly. And as the Internet of Things starts to come online, the idea of using artificial intelligence...
Force multiplier!
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It is a force multiplier. So, but a really common one that's being looked at, there are actual startups that are doing this right now, is using drones, and this has actually been going on for a couple of years, but using drones to do things like inspect train tracks or farm crops or mines or things like that, where you normally would have to spin out bridges. You'd have to send a person to go around and poke things and make sure they're okay, make sure your irrigation isn't leaking and so on.
And humans are very fallible.
Yeah, and
so you're not really guaranteed that you're getting that job done.
Lazy, right?
Yeah, we do.
We get hungover. We sleep late. We get in arguments, right?
Yeah, it's like for every kid out there that has to deliver the flyers and throws the half of them in the sewer, there's a bridge inspector doing a similar thing.
Yeah,
I mean.
This is again.
I'm not checking that bridge today.
I think I said this.
Looks good.
I think I said this in the automated car edition, that I thoroughly welcome that the time when some machine drives my car, because machines don't get sleepy.
Actually, I was reading, during the research that like there is capital is rushing into this field right now.
Yeah.
In 2015, $2.4 billion in startup money into AI startups.
Yeah.
And this year alone, the first half, it was already at 1.5 billion. Yeah. So you project that out, it's at 3 billion. That's a $600 million increase in 1 year.
Yeah.
In AI startups.
Well, you got to think about like things like one that's at least getting some advertising play these days. That's pretty big deal is Betterment, and you're seeing this a lot in the financial services sector, where a lot of these relatively sophisticated algorithms can just do a lot of personal finance work that you used to have to pay a person for. And, you have to check the motivations, of course, of the company that does the programming, but you don't have to do that and check the motivations of the individual sitting across from you selling you the product, right? Like, so it just is a pretty transparent model for providing financial services. So
and that's really the beauty of it is trust. Like, as technology kind of comes into play and we start trusting the technology, it will kind of allow us to actually trust our fellow humans more.
Right.
Because there will be less opportunities for that trust to be broken.
Right.
So
and like I welcome a lot of this. So pluses and minuses, right? Like, do we have the opportunity to better society in a lot of ways with these technologies? In the short run, absolutely. I think there's likely going to be dramatic benefits in fields like medical science and
healthcare. I think it's gotta. That's really where a lot of this should go first, because we're falling off a cliff right now when it comes to like cost in healthcare, and it would really, like, putting this technology into the healthcare space would free up so many resources to kind of really lower the cost of healthcare in this country.
Yeah, and then but one thing that we as a society will have to try and figure out how to deal with, and it's like this in any time when there is a major technological shift, a lot of jobs are just gonna cease to exist. Right now, a lot of new jobs will also be in very high demand, and we won't be able to meet those demands because there just won't be enough skilled people.
Robot tackler.
Right. Robot tackler. You gotta have someone to tackle the stray robot.
Exactly.
Right?
You need the guy with the restraining bolt.
For some reason, I'm imagining someone with like one of those sticks that you catch like stray dogs with or whatever.
I'm thinking like the Jawa, like from Star Wars. You get the little bolt on the robots.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's like, they gotta, push the thing and
that's a job I want. So, but yeah, I mean, there's going to be plenty of job creation, but there's going to be job destruction, right? Like, and so that's going to be a challenge, right?
But the thing is like, while that's always a concern, I mean, while that's mentioned, like, it's a new thing always, and it's never,
it's never been
a new thing. It's always there ever since someone grabbed a rock and opened a nut,
right? The first guy who stuck a stick in the ground and shoved a seed in, all the guys who were foraging went, "Oh, great!
Right, there goes
there goes my job.
Fantastic."
Right? Yeah. Now this guy, look, ooh la di da, Mister, I know how to use a stick, man. Right? Like,
this farm's gonna take our jobs.
I don't know, no stick learning, right? Like,
and that's what it is. And I mean, we joke, but really, it's about we as people need to not only evolve in the macro, but evolve in the micro. I mean, we need ourselves, in order to, because technology moves fast and it's moving faster.
Yeah, and like so let's back up for a second and go back to medicine.
Sure.
Right? To the example you used earlier where you were talking about like doctors not having to read charts as much, right? Like, I mean, obviously it would still have to be involved, but the machines could do a dramatic portion of that. That would free doctors up to, I don't know, talk to patients. Right? And so
see more patients.
There's a tremendous benefit that comes with that, right? And you talk about like something like crop or watching crops with drones that are run by an AI, right? Like all of a sudden crop yields can go up dramatically because now fertilizer is more efficiently distributed, and water leakages can be easily patched and monitored and so on. Like, so our farms become more productive. Like, so yeah, there's always stuff that to worry about with these technological innovations, but on the whole, in general, it marches on and life's better.
And it always, that's what we do. That's what humans do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we've done since the dawn of time is we build new tools and we move forward and we progress. And it's not going to stop. So
yeah, and honestly,
it's just going to accelerate faster.
And until we get to that last phase that we're talking about, the super intelligent AI, right? We're really talking about just better tools, right? The moment we get to where we have software, because effectively it is actually useful when you're thinking about this to decouple the hardware, like the robot or the drone or whatever, from the software, which is the intelligence, right?
Yeah, because why do they have to look like people? Anyway, they usually don't. They probably
in all
not.
likelihood won't.
It won't.
Most
every
of the
sci-fi, every sci-fi movie has some kind of hardware entity. None of this stuff is really. You probably won't even see it.
Honestly,
it'll be in the cloud.
A ton. What I suspect you will see is a lot of very specialized hardware that is run by a more generalized intelligence in the cloud.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And that just is very efficient. Right. Like, that's actually, I mean, sans the intelligence in the sky piece we're talking about, that's pretty much how nature works, right? Like, nature works with very specialized things, with the exception of us. Like, we're the one oddity in nature.
Yep.
We're the hyper adaptive species.
Yeah, we're the one that changes our environment.
Yeah, and that's the weird thing. Whereas you go look at carpenter ants, they do what they do, and they do it perfect.
Yep.
And
day in, day out.
Yeah.
It's been the same for millions of years.
Well, long freaking time.
Long time.
So that, in a nutshell, is AI. I mean, I will say, and I'd be kind of remiss if I didn't talk really quickly about AI and philosophy. Like, we touched on it with Turing and so on, because that kind of strays into that. And also Asimov kind of touched into that with his 3 laws and stuff.
3 laws of robotics.
But there's a couple other brief things about AI in philosophy, is that one of the tricky things that you have to think about is in order to understand what is and what is not an artificial intelligence, you have to really think about what is intelligence. And
yeah, and it's funny because we always assume the human intelligence is going to be the same.
It's not.
No, it's more likely than it's not going to be.
Well, I think the common thinking now, and this is pretty recent, I forget exactly how recent, is that there's like 7 different types of human intelligence. Spatial, I forget what they all are. But and anyways, getting into it, is that there is not a easily agreed upon definition of what is intelligence and what is not.
Well, yeah, and we're going to get into, I mean, this could easily go into solipsism at this point, but when you're really looking at it, humans aren't rational beings. We strive to be, but that's what these machines will be. It'll be 100% rational for the most part.
And this is the thing that freaks us all out, right? Like, and this is what they kind of touched on with the Matrix
and Ultron.
Ultron was a lunatic.
Well, he was hyper rational,
right? Sociopathically rational.
Yes,
right.
He had an idea, and he pretty much reasoned everything.
Yeah, we're the disease.
Yes, we need to go.
Yeah, it's very Mr. Anderson.
Right.
Like,
yes.
So But anyways, if you're interested in like kind of exploring that idea of philosophy around AI and things like that, I'll point you towards another podcast that I found that I really enjoyed. It's called Talking Robotics, podcast about robotics and artificial intelligence.
Yeah, we'll link it in the show notes.
Yeah, it's easy to find, obviously, and it's a very. I mean, they get a little heady at times, right? Because they go into the philosophy of it.
Yeah,
but it's pretty darn good.
Well, I like that stuff. I mean, I'm the type of guy that likes to sit on the couch with some buddies and talk.
Wax philosophy.
Exactly, it's fun.
Yeah. So again, Dennis, that's kind of what I got out of digging into AI for a little while.
Yeah. All right. Well, I hope everybody kind of enjoyed the journey today. A little bit of departure from, our regular topic. So, Klaatu Barata Nikto. All right. Thanks for listening today, everyone. If you are enjoying the show, please hit the subscribe button in your podcast app, especially if you're using iTunes. That'll really help us out in the rankings and give the show some more visibility. Leave a review if you're digging the show, and we may even read it on air and give you thanks and praise for that. All of the ways to contact us, if you want to send some questions or comments, are in the show notes, and we will see you next time.